Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of FNS Sports Media Podcast. This is episode 30. In this episode, we're going to be kind of talking about the college New Year's Six bowl games. I'm Cooper.
My name's Aaron.
And let's get right into it.
All right, so like Cooper said, we're going to be talking primarily about the New Year's Six bowl games. I know there's 500 million different bowl games, and you might be a fan of, I don't know, Oklahoma State. But you know what? None of us care about how Oklahoma State did in the bowl games. There's too many of them to talk through. We're going to focus on the six big ones. Well, starting with the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, in a 38-25 Ole Miss win, Jackson Dart went 25-40 through 379 yards with 3 touchdowns. He had an awesome game. And his running back, Quinshon Judkins, had 34 carries for 106 yards. On the opposite side, Drew Aller went 19 for 39 through 295 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. For his running back, Kay Allen had 10 carries for 51 yards. For the Ole Miss best wide receiver was Caden Prieskorn, had 10 receptions, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. For Penn State's Tyler Warren had 5 receptions, 125 yards.
Looky there, man. Ole Miss all the way, man. Ole Miss dominated this game from almost the entire game. It was a disappointing performance if you're Penn State. They came into that game, favored to win, had a great season in the Big Ten, but it really just didn't matter. Ole Miss killed them. Jackson Dart was fantastic. Caden Prieskorn dominated the middle of the field there with 2 touchdowns. Should have been 3. Got called back for a terrible refereeing decision. But Ole Miss dominated that game. I think it's just it's a coming out party for Ole Miss for next year. I think Ole Miss is going to be ranked in the top 5 preseason. Jackson Dart should be a Heisman Trophy contender. I think Ole Miss is going to be one of those teams to compete for a national championship. Just a great win for Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl.
Yes, the second bowl is going to be the Fiesta Bowl, a game where Oregon won 45-6. When you think this is crazy, listen to some of the other scores. But for Liberty, Hayden Salter went 15 for 24 with 126 yards for 1 touchdown and 1 interception. For his running back, Quentin Cooley had 8 carries for 79 yards. On the opposite side, Oregon's Bo Nix went 28 for 35, 363 yards with 5 touchdowns. Oregon's Bucky Irving, running back, went with 14 carries, had 117 yards with 1 touchdown. For Liberty's wide receiver, CJ Daniels had 8 receptions with 79 yards. And Oregon's Ted Johnson had 11 receptions, 172 yards, and 1 touchdown.
I'll tell you what, Oregon dominated this game even more than Ole Miss dominated the Peach Bowl. This is not Liberty's fault. This is not Liberty's fault. This is just an example of why the requirement to have a group of 5 champion participate in a New Year's Six bowl game is just a bad idea. Nobody wants to see a Power 5 team dominate a group of 5 champion in this way. It's just a bad idea. Liberty, I don't even think Liberty was the best group of 5 team. Somehow they got in. Oregon, a team that really had nothing to play for. That's not motivating to them at all to like, hey, you had this great season. Here, go play Liberty. It's like, ooh, whoop-de-doo. Liberty, I'm sure they were pumped up to be there, but like, even Liberty's fans, nobody wants to travel all the way across the country to watch your team lose by 5 touchdowns. And Oregon, as much as their fans want to see wins, nobody wants to see their team beat a team by 5 touchdowns in a bowl game. It's just a bad idea. Bo Nix had a great game. That's just what we expected from Bo Nix at Oregon. But it was a blowout, not Liberty's fault. The college football committee needs to fix this right away.
All right, moving on to the next bowl game, the Cotton Bowl, one of the lowest scoring games for this New Year's Six 2023 bowl games. 14-3 Missouri Tigers win over Ohio State. For Missouri's quarterback, Brady Cook went 11 for 18, 128 yards with 1 touchdown. For his running back, Cody Schrader had 29 carries, 128 yards for 1 touchdown. On the opposite side, Ohio's Lincoln Kinsholt went 6 for 17 with 86 yards. Their running back, Trayvon Henderson, had 19 carries, 72 yards. Missouri's wide receiver, Marcus Johnson, had 29 carries, 128 yards with 1 touchdown. And Ohio's Emeka Egbuka had 6 receptions for 68 yards.
I mean, I don't even know what to think of this game. Sure, Missouri beat Ohio State. Ohio State had some opt-outs. Missouri had some opt-outs also. These are just exhibition games. And when you get to the point where you got so many players opting out, Ohio State was down to their third string quarterback. That explains how they only put up 3 points in that game. Kind of a snooze fest there. Sure, Missouri fans are going to be able to say, "Yay, we beat Ohio State," but did you really though? That's their third string quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr., their dynamic wide receiver, didn't play. What are you really going to take away from that? But Missouri gets the win. Again, this is just highlighting another problem with the bowl season right now, with all of the opt-outs in games that are not playoff games. Hopefully this problem will be fixed with the 12-team playoff next year. But really kind of a disappointing game to watch.
Yeah, the next one, the Orange Bowl. Oh wow!
Speaking of disappointing games to watch.
Yes, 63-3. Georgia wins. Well, to be fair, Florida State has had a lot of injuries and lots of people transferred in the transfer portal, but Georgia had 9 straight touchdown drives to beat previously undefeated Florida State 63-3. Georgia scored 4 touchdowns in just under 9 minutes to take a dominant hold on the game early in the second quarter. Georgia had 301 passing yards, with Florida State having 146. Georgia having 372 rushing yards, and Florida State having 63. This game was there was no chance for Florida State. It was just definitely a blowout.
Yeah, this was a murder from the get-go, and another recipe for disaster. You have a team like Georgia, who was ranked number 1 in the country for a good portion of the year, happened to lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game, got bumped down into the Orange Bowl, playing against a team that in Florida State that anticipated on being in the playoff. They were undefeated. They get left out of the playoff because of an injury situation to their quarterback. Not particularly motivated to be there. They had a ton of opt-outs. A ton of people hit the transfer portal. You just knew that this was going to be a blowout from the jump. But Georgia, you knew it was going to be a blowout. You didn't know it was going to be a 60-point blowout.
Yeah.
One of the biggest blowouts in any bowl game in ever. And so, you kind of feel bad for Florida State, but then at the same time, you kind of don't, because just with the big hullabaloo that they were making about being left out of the playoff, kind of, in my opinion, serves them right to get stomped like that. It's like, do you really think that this team deserved to be in the 4-team playoff? I mean, sure, you're an unmotivated team playing with half a roster, but like, do all of those opt-outs make up for 60 points?
No,
it's there. Not at all. I think it just, yes, it stinks to get beat that bad, but I think it also just proves that Florida State didn't need to be in the playoff at all, especially when we start talking about the 2 playoff games.
Yeah, now we're going to start getting into the 2 biggest games, the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl. Let's start off with the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, so in the Sugar Bowl, Washington takes down Texas 37-1 or 37-31.
That would be crazy.
I don't know how they would have gotten 1 point in football, but whatever. Anyway, that was a great game. Came down to the last play. Texas had the ball in the red zone on the last play of the game. I think when you just look at it, there, that Washington's quarterback just played out of his mind. Michael Penix was fantastic, and I don't think either of these two teams would have given Florida State any trouble after watching how these 2 teams played.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Penix, holy moly, he had awesome. He accounted for over 460 total yards, 430 through the air and 31 on the ground, on 29 of 38 passing yards and a pair of touchdowns. Just thrilling the New Orleans crowd, and that was just crazy.
Yeah, he took home the offensive MVP of the game, and it was well deserved. Now, but the game wasn't only about Washington. Texas played a great game also. Quinn Ewers had 318 yards and a touchdown. It was a great, competitive, thrilling game all the way down to the very end. Literally came down to the last play of the game.
Yeah, like literally the last play of the game. They could have tied the game, but that's not what was supposed to happen apparently. Now let's go to the Rose Bowl. It was Alabama versus Michigan, and what's crazy about this is kind of like the Sugar Bowl. Alabama was just 3 yards away from extending a classic Rose Bowl to a second overtime and keeping its national title hopes alive. They put the hands for Jalen Milroe, one of their best players. Nick Saban probably thinking star power just always wins. Not with this. He got stuffed before being able to cross the line, touchdown, and all Michigan fans were going crazy. Everyone was going crazy. I mean, they should be excited.
Yeah, another game that went down to the last play, went down into overtime. I think this game was a Rose Bowl classic, regardless of who you wanted to win. I think Michigan at the beginning of the game dominated Alabama's offensive line. They stifled Jalen Milroe at the beginning. Alabama really couldn't get moving offensively. One thing to look out for as we move towards the national championship game, though, Michigan really struggled in this game on special teams. They had some really big special teams errors, big special teams mistakes. They got lucky that it didn't cost them the win here in the Rose Bowl against Alabama. But that's just playing with fire right there. And eventually they're going to get burned. Washington it would gladly take advantage of some of those same kinds of turnovers if Michigan has those turnovers again. Michigan will definitely need to clean it up if they want to win the national championship.
Yeah, but Michigan's defensive line, it was just better than Alabama's. They had 6 sacks and 10 tackles for the win.
Yeah, so that sets up the national championship game on Monday. In Houston. We're based in Houston here. I was looking at prices on StubHub last night. You know what the cheapest just to get in the door price was last night?
What was it?
$935.
Wow.
For one ticket just to get in. So we're based in Houston, but guess what? We will not be going to that game. But NRG Stadium, Michigan versus Washington for the national championship. Personally, in this game, I think I'm going to be cheering for Washington. What about you?
Probably Washington, but I just hope it's going to be a good game. Just don't really have any teams that I like, not really that I follow. I don't really follow college football that much, but I'm just hoping that this is a great high-scoring game.
Sounds good. We'll probably be back to recap the national championship in a later episode.
Yeah. And this video is sponsored by Family is Awesome YouTube channel. If you're looking for fun and family-friendly content, check out their channel at family_is_awesome. We'll put a link in the description below and check them out because they're awesome. Special thanks to The Athletic, ESPN.com, and NFL.com for all the information. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified when any other episodes are out, and we'll see you guys later.